definitely doable. All right, well, today we're back to work on the NASCAR swap Miata build. We are at the end of the road as far as what we need to do to shoehorn this early 2000s NASCAR drivetrain into a Miata. Obviously, this car was not built for this. It was built to house a 1.8 liter four-cylinder and be a sporty little daily driver. And as you can see, it's not really that anymore. And I've learned throughout this time of owning this car, I've had it for a very long time, and it's gone through a lot of phases, from a little turbo setup to a 350 horsepower 5.3 LS to a 500 horsepower 6.2 liter LS to putting that on nitrous and pumping that up to 600 horsepower. In every phase, you find the weak links, and this chassis was not built for that level of power, not even close. I mean, I've ripped subframes in half, the floors are splitting apart at the seams. It's just not built for it, and that's why we're building it for it. Now, we could have just shoved this thing in there, done some cuts to the tunnel, bare minimum, made it fit, and that would work, don't get me wrong. That's exactly what I did with my Corvette here. I switched it from a transaxle setup, with transmissions in the rear, to a transmission in the front, and I just cut the bare minimum out of the tunnel, built a new cover top plate deal, built a transmission mount, and that was that. And you know, that works, don't get me wrong, it absolutely works, but things are a little bit tight in there. And with this car, I wanna make sure we have plenty of space for everything that's gonna need to go in there, and make sure that it's as serviceable as possible. Because the more serviceable a car is, the more serviceable anything is, the more likely you are to service it. So that's the goal. Obviously, tall order. We got a lot of things to account for and try to make room for while making this 830 horsepower, 9,000 RPM Dodge NASCAR motor fit as well. This front part of the tunnel is going to be the most complicated because we have to leave enough room to mount the midplate and to service it, to be able to take the bell housing off in the car. But right behind where that space needs to be is where we have our pedals. So it's gonna get really, really tricky there and be really tight margins to get it to actually work like I want it to work, where we have room on both sides, the underneath and the interior. But again, if we play this smart, honestly, we're great, because everything else from there is really just however we want to do it. I'm excited to get this done. I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks on how I wanted to do this, and it's time to hit the commit button and get it done. So start bending some tubes and see if we can come up with something that works. I only have enough tubes to do this, of this chromoly, 3/4 inch chromoly. So we got to get it right. All right, guys, before we get too deep into today's video, I wanted to talk to you about today's video sponsor, Grooms. Now, getting your vitamins and minerals and all these things, it's important. It really is. And I've learned this. Well, I always had a hard time sticking to the routine of doing a bunch of different things together to get it all or whatever, until I found Grooms. I get vitamins, minerals, adaptogens, whole food ingredients, all of that in one pack of gummies. One pack, 8 gummies per day. That's it. That's all you got to do. And for me, the easier something is to use, the more likely I am to stick to it. It's just the reality. It's who I am. It's who most of us are, I think. I'll speak for myself though. But it does not get any easier to use than a pack of gummies. Functionally, awesome. On top of that though, something I learned, a little scientific-y thing, is that with the greens powders, think about it, you're mixing them in water, they become a fluid, you drink, like me, you drink a lot of fluids, they kind of take the express lane, you know, they're bypassing, detouring, they're just straight out. And because of that, your body doesn't really get a chance to absorb it all. It just kind of goes right through you, and you're really just wasting it, if I'm being honest. So with the gummy form factor, you're giving your body a chance to actually take it all in and absorb all of it. Those are the good functional reasons that I can use to justify how much I love this. But one of the biggest reasons is that they're delicious. I think you gotta try it for yourself to understand what I mean when I say that my problem used to be sticking to that routine, getting my nutrient stuff every day. My problem now is not overdoing it and dip my hands in and grabbing another pack. I'm telling you, it is hard to do. It is hard to resist because they taste so good. And you should resist because they tune these things up perfectly to have nearly exactly 100% of your daily values on the majority of your stuff. I mean, they are just, but I'm telling you, it is hard. You probably shouldn't. Don't eat more than one, but I'm telling you, you will want to. And if you don't believe me, try it. If you're interested in trying it, click the link down in the description. You can get up to 52% off. It's a great deal, so you can try it out and just see firsthand. I really think it's one of those things, you gotta try it, and then you'll be like, I get it now. I see what you're saying. So, anyway, that being said, we got a lot of work to do. We need to get back to it. When it comes to doing tube work, I would say in an ideal world, it would be nice to have a variety of pre-bent pieces that you can basically use to mock up and look at what different bend degrees look like in your scenario to decide kind of what you want to go with. Sometimes you're limited by just how something needs to fit. It just has to be what it is. But in this case, it does, but what that is can vary. We've got a pretty big box to work in. We basically need this to slope in aggressively enough to where the pedal will clear at full travel, but not too aggressively to where it'll completely block off and essentially interfere with the mid-plate mount. I mean, the mid-plate mount on the bell housing is kind of the whole reason we had to cut the tunnel as much as we did and went down this rabbit hole of rebuilding the tunnel, which I'm not mad about. It's a good, fun, challenging project, which is literally what I do this for. I don't think I'd be building cars if it wasn't challenging, but finding that bend angle, it's takes some playing, but I think we found one that's gonna work. But we got to commit and cut it to really find out. That's the worst part. Hopefully we got it right. Fortunately, in our case here, this is one of those things where once you get the first one done, the second one is more or less the same thing. So I didn't want to copy paste because there are some small, minute differences, but at least you've got the general shape, combination of angles, length, all of that, and the bend degree. I only had to bend it twice. I did undershoot it a little bit. I couldn't remember exactly what I bent the first one to, but we've got our first piece ready to go, so now we just got to get this second piece matched up, cleaned up, angled just right to tie in nicely. That's something that's super important with this because where we're welding these two pieces to specifically is mild steel, and these are chromoly, so they're a little bit trickier to weld, a little bit less heat required than the mild steel that we're welding to. So we've got to make sure that they land really nicely and we have minimal gaps, because those gaps are going to just make that job way more difficult. So now that we've got them made, we just need to get them in place and get them matched up, which, can be a little easier said than done, being it's one of the cool things about working with tubes and angles is that angle can be used as a compound angle. You can have it where we mostly need it, which is just curving in, but it can curve in and down, it can curve in and up. So getting these matched perfectly, it's a little bit, takes some eyeballing. And I gotta be honest, my eyeballing is not the best. I would not consider myself the world's best eyeballer. So hopefully we got it right, but we're gonna commit. We're gonna tack it in. Gotta get the welder pulled over here. That's always a struggle with tacking stuff on the car, but at least in this case, we're not doing any bench welding. We're doing a bunch of man welding. We're doing a bunch of stuff on the car. So the worst is when you've got the welder and you gotta tack something on the car to get it just right, and then take it back off, go back to the bench, then you gotta take the welder back, then weld it there, then go back and forth. In this case, we don't have to do that. But tacking to the center, not a big deal at all. That's mild steel that we cut fresh. We designed the piece, cut it, bent it, cleaned it up. It's clean. Still challenging. Mild steel to chromoly has its challenges. It's nuanced, right? But welding to the firewall, totally different animal. Not even close to the same thing. This firewall said nah. It did not want to be joined with this chromoly in any way, shape, or form. And, this being 30-year-old sheet metal with seam sealer and sound deadening material and stuff, it just was not cooperating. And we're going to have to figure something out because this is not going well. It's making a smoke show, and it's a pretty critical point. If we can't get this to join, we're we're downriver without a paddle, or whatever it is they say. All right, well, we got something that looks like a transmission tunnel now. It's definitely, man, I played with a lot of different combinations of angles for this front one just to, it's a compromise of, as I've said many times, you know, space for the inside of the tunnel, space for us inside the car, right? And, you know, we have to leave enough room for a structure here going to the mid plate, which I'm gonna make a billet mount that bolts into the frame rail right here, so that way we can take it off from there or from the front, whether we need to pull the drivetrain out the front or we need to pull the bell housing out this way. But also we need enough space for the pedal to articulate with our linkage setup and everything. So definitely towing a fine line there. It's some fine margins. But man, I don't know what the deal is with this material over here. And I realized it happened when I was welding in these plates as well, and it literally just explodes. And I've welded nasty cast aluminum and welded on the boat, welded all sorts of stuff, never had that. A good cleanup with, you know, some acetone or something will get the job done, we'll find out. But yeah, so got our top all the way to the front, man. That is, that's huge. Whew, so satisfying. Oh, so happy to be getting this done. I mean, past this, the floors and frame rails, those are pretty straightforward because there's really only a couple ways you can do it, that it can go. This is where you gotta do the artiste side, so. I'm gonna quit jibber jabbering. Let's get these bottom bars done, and hopefully tomorrow, probably not tomorrow, maybe the next day, our bead roller will be here so we can start doing sheet metal. No shortage. Let's get back to it. When it comes to building cars, their fabrication, wiring, whatever it is, really, anything like that, there's certain projects and tasks that keep you up at night, where you spend time thinking about them and how you want to do them and what the best way is going to be. And this lower bar is one that has kept me up at night trying to decide how I'm going to do it. Because the problem here is we're doing kind of a compromise of tube chassis partially and then stock chassis partially. And so being that situation that we find ourselves in, we've got to work around the stock sheet metal and the stock frame rails and these stock things that are limited. They're fixed points that we can't change. So where to land this bar was a question I had gone over in my head a bunch of times, and fortunately there's a perfect little spot on the frame rail that is unused. There's a spot above it for the mid plate mount that we're going to use, but this spot unused. So getting the bend just right, it seems like this is going to work out really, really well. Man, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulders when you come up with that solution. So same as the top, took a bit of trial and error on the bending, but once we got the first one done, we can kind of just copy paste again, at least the rough dimensions, the main cut angle, the length. I always like to fine tune that, put it in place, mark it and cut it just to be sure, because even an 1/8 inch off, then you got an 1/8 inch gap you got to weld up. So we've got them both fitting pretty good. So now we just got to clean up all this undercoating on this frame rail spot that we're going to weld to, and hope we don't have as many problems as we did going to the firewall with the top pieces. I'm optimistic that this will be a little bit better because there's not a bunch of old sound deadening and seam sealer. It's just undercoating, but we got these things. They ended up being pretty much carbon copies of each other. That's one thing too that's nice to do if you're doing a bar where the other one should theoretically be the same, is you can just try it on the other side first, and if it fits on the other side fine, then you know you're good. Now there's some differences because these are mirror image, but other than that, overall length and stuff gets you in the ballpark. And fortunately these fit well. They look right. Where they land should hopefully work out well for us getting that front part of the tunnel sheet metal structure built to go around the mid-plate mount, but also give us room for the pedal and all those different things we got to remember to account for when we're doing this. And, you know, one good way to test if something seems stout is to do a good old hang from it test. It's something I find funny is when people will talk about the integrity of a certain weld and undercut and this and that, but if you ever put 2 tacks on something and then try to take it apart, you'll know that just those 2 dang tacks can hold a lot. So as long as it's got a weld, probably all right in most cases. Just saying. Well, shoot, I mean, I literally hung from the bottom bars like a jungle gym a couple times, and they held up. I mean, granted, I didn't hang long, only got a couple tacks on them, but Really happy with how that worked out. I've been debating how I wanted to do that for a long time, and it's perfect. We have to tie it into the frame rail, and the mid plate will tie into the next part of the frame rail. It's stepped. Worked out so good for that. It looks a little odd now because the new floor is going to be about at least an inch lower than this floor, and then we'll come up to there. That'll be kind of the side corners. But yeah, whew. We got a transmission tunnel structure, initial structure at least. I may change this plan. We'll see how it kind of pans out. Maybe not. It should be all right. But basically, I want to make this part one piece, and then the other side have its own removable panel. So if you needed to do something with the starter, you have that panel, boom, just pop it off, easy peasy. If you're gonna dig in deeper than that, then you just pop both panels off, you know, and then have this whole thing exposed. So we are gonna do some bracing in here. Oh, but my point in saying all that is the rest will be welded in. And that way we can get kind of all those weird gaps filled with the welded in panels, and then the bolt-on panels clean with really flat, clean edges. That's kind of my idea, at least. But yeah, wow, it's crazy. I can't believe it. It's crazy to see this thing starting to go forward in structure. Oh man, tube transmission tunnel in Miata. That's something I never thought I would do. Oh, also, I got to see how that will play with the bell housing and stuff. I got to do some head scratching now that we've got through the head scratching results of the head scratching. Oh man, oh man. All right, well, on to the bracing. Just make sure it doesn't interfere with serviceability, you know? So anyway, let me come up with a plan, get back to it. Keep playing with this tunnel for a bit, and then while we wait for the bead roller to get here, which should be here in 2 days, or a day, something like that. Got some exciting stuff to show you, but one thing at a time. For the bracing, we fortunately have a good bit of drops left over from the way we did the initial 4-corner tunnel structure. So we should hopefully have enough to do all of the bracing where I want to do the bracing without having to break into any new pieces, because may or may not, I don't have any new pieces. Fortunately, I do have some leftovers from the RX-7 project, some ones that didn't work when I built the funny car hoop, some failed bend combinations, and they look like they might work perfect for some of the bracing spots that we need. So hey, even more material than we thought. It's always good having extra, because usually you don't have enough. So maybe with the extra we'll have just enough, you know? That's what I'm hoping, at least. Fortunately, that piece worked out near perfectly for this front connecting brace, because it bends up and bends back down, so it tucks it up high enough to where we should be able to get the bell housing out and build our tunnel to it. You can see how when you heat up the tack, when the tack's hot, the piece stays, but as soon as the tack cools and that metal shrinks, pulls it right up. Why it's important to have things fixed when you go to tack them and then when you go to weld them, because things move around a lot. One of the biggest struggles when it comes to fabrication, but getting to that one was definitely a little bit of a challenge, but we got it done. So now we just need to start plugging away on the rest of them. How many? Can't tell you right now. Don't know for sure. We'll go until our hands get tired and our belts are worn out. Do as many braces as we can and try to really stiffen this thing up. Make it a full-on jungle gym. Bring back the McDonald's Play Palace. Something I may have said a couple times in the past, a lot of times, many times, is that when it comes to building a race car, it's all about compromises. No matter what category you're in, it's all compromises. There isn't usually some just magic perfect way where there's no downside. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes there is, sometimes, but in a lot of cases, most cases, you gotta compromise somewhere, and you gotta decide where you want to compromise. So this tunnel bracing, I want to make this tunnel as stiff and rigid and strong as possible, but we also need to still have access to everything. One of my main justifications for building this tunnel and going this deep down the dang rabbit hole and cutting the whole tunnel out of the car was that we could build it with access panels to where we can get in there and work on stuff. That is something that every single track car I've had, and I've had to work on them, you're going to have to. It's a reality of it. Try to minimize it, but it's a reality, and you're going to have to do it at the track. Every single one of them, I wished I could just pop a panel off and have access to the transmission tunnel, because it is the tightest area of the car usually to work on, and there's a lot of stuff in there. So we've not only got to build this bracing to where it's going to make this thing strong, but we've got to build it in a way where we still have access to everything and we can build our access panels. Fortunately, again, we've got all these drops left over, so we don't have to break into any new pieces. We've got a good combination of links to work in kind of all the spaces that I want to put the bracing into. And, one of those places being this combination of upper and lower bins. So having the bar go between the two bins should hopefully allow us an easier route for the sheet metal that goes on top, because we've got a lot of different sheet metal panels that we're going to have to make. And if we do this right and we kind of play our cards just right, we can make our future self's life way easier when it comes to making those sheet metal panels by giving us a nice structure and nice points that break up where the tunnel bends and undulates and twists and turns. So fortunately, just about every single one of these bracing bars has a companion on the other side. So it's the same process as doing the four outers, where we get one done and we can pretty much copy paste the overall dimensions, notch angles, all of that into the other one. And so it makes it a lot quicker of a process, because the hard part in all of this is getting the links and the notching just right. This is one of those things. With fabrication, it all runs downhill, trickles downstream, whatever analogy you want to use. The more work you put in on the front end and the prep work to get things to fit really nice, the easier your life's going to be when it comes to welding. And since we got to weld all this in the car, I'm liking easy. Easier the better, because it's not going to be easy at baseline. Woo! Man. That was a lot of swelding. Let me tell you that much. First part about using the magnets to piece your material is that they get all the metal dust. Yeah, a whole TIG rod of just tacking. It's pretty crazy. It's a lot of tacking. So I may have celebrated being done tacking and notching and grinding and clearancing and planning a little too early, because I couldn't help myself. I tried to stop. I tried to step away from the grinder, but we had some more pieces and we had some more areas that could definitely stand some bracing. It's one of those where you start going down the hole and you start seeing more and more areas that you realize could use bracing. And if I've braced it here, well, it really needs to be braced there. And if it's braced there, it really needs to be... You get the idea. It just goes on and on, but it'll be worth it. Okay, now we're done with tacking. I can't go back on that because we don't have any more chromoly left, so we're done with tacking chromoly at least. Bracing. Tubing it. You even tube, bro. Sheesh. Whoa, I may have gone a little hog wild on the bracing, but it's a low weight cost item that adds a lot of rigidity to the structure, being that we're using all chromoly. You got a lot of bracing, a lot of bars, full on jungle gym in here, but pretty happy with how this came out. It's still very light based on the weight of all. It's a 6 total 4-foot sticks. And I forget, I weighed them initially, but it's not much. For how much rigidity this has, it's very, very light, and it's not gonna add a ton with the panels because I gotta plan for that, blah, blah, blah. But with building a car light, it's kind of like that old saying, cheap, fast, reliable, pick two. You've got cheap, strong, and light. If it's cheap and strong, not gonna be light. If it's cheap and light, it's not gonna be strong. If it's light and strong, not gonna be cheap. That's why we went with chromoly. It's not that bad though, I'll be honest. It's really not as bad as I thought it would be. So that said though, we do have to order one more piece because I ran out and I didn't have 2 pieces long enough to do this very, very front connecting bar. We need to go from that bend there down to that bend there. Now that's basically been my setup for the different bar placement. Like for here, this is a bend and that's the other bend. So that way we can have a mostly flat panel and a mostly flat panel and do 2 separate panels, or at least have an easy place to break the panel. So that's what I want to do up here, since those fronts will be welded and the sides will be removable. But the reverse mount starter is kind of in the way. It sticks out past the tunnel enclosure. So that's fine. We're gonna build basically a bubbled out panel for this, and it's gonna be removable. But it's gonna run right into the starter. So we're gonna have to do something, and whatever we decide to do, I wanna do on both sides so it's symmetrical. So it kinda works out that we don't have the material because I wanna think on that anyway, and we got plenty of other spots to cover before we get there. So no big deal. I have rethought my plan on the covers, like where it's gonna be removable, not removable. I'm actually pretty excited to weld the sheet metal parts in because we are gonna be doing something a little different for that. That if I do it right, should look really cool. Not to mention our bead roller should be here today. Been a long, long road of playing with tubes, but we've got everything but those front 2. So we're ready to go. Ready to rock and roll, playing the jungle gym. So I gotta weld these things out. And I've counted, you can go back, screenshot, count them yourself. You probably won't believe me, I wouldn't believe me. 48 joints, we gotta weld, 48 joints, we gotta weld. I did this to myself by adding all the bracing, like geez Louise, dude. 48. We do need the musical engines, pull this thing out, get it out of our way, weld it up, and then we're gonna put it back in so we can start building our sheet metal structure. It all sounds like I got a lot of work to do, so I should quit jibber jabbering. Let's get back to it. When I set out to learn TIG welding, it was something I'd always wanted to do. I just thought it was so cool to be able to create your own stuff and make your own stuff. And the less things I have to rely on other people for, the less things I got to worry about, being impacted by somebody else's schedule. The cost makes it a lot more affordable. I get to do it all myself. But there's kind of phases. You start learning how to TIG weld and you're welding practice pieces on a bench and you start to get the hang of it. You're like, this isn't that bad. But then you go to weld something that's a real world item and you realize, oh, there's little spots, pinch spots where I can't get the torch in just right and I can't see great. And then you realize that's a good bit harder. You've got to really almost relearn how to do it. You know the motions, but making them work in weird environments, now is your new thing you got to learn. And then the other phase, the last phase really, is when it comes to welding stuff on a car. You know, I used to see people's welds on a car, whether that be a cage or whatever the case, and think that that was the absolute best they could do. You know, they're trying their best on every weld. But one, when you got 48 joints to weld, and I mean, I speak for myself, this is just me, but I stopped caring about aesthetics. Obviously, functionally, the welds need to be good. They need to work good penetration all the way around, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to getting a perfect, beautiful weld, I am not taking the time to adjust the lift and reposition for every single weld to get in just the right position to weld it nicely. I'm just trying to get it done at that point. On top of that, though, getting to some of these places, even something that's accessible like this tunnel, it's so tough, you know. You look at it and you think, oh, I'm going to be able to get to all of that, no problem. But then reality comes and it's like, oh, well, my head doesn't fit in the tunnel very well with the mask on, and I'm bouncing my head in, so I got to lift it up. And then with it lifted up, I'm reaching way above my head and I can't really see what I'm welding. And it really is a whole nother dynamic to learning TIG welding. And I would say if you're learning, you're trying to learn, definitely try to start doing some out of position in the car stuff as soon as you can, because it'll help you a lot in the long run. And then when you go back to the bench, you're like, wow, what a treat, you know? It's so much easier to do. So welding this tunnel out, while it may look like it's not that bad and may look like it's a quick little process, just throwing some welds on it, let me tell you, I struggled. And there was some casualties in the tungsten department. If you don't know, when you dip the tungsten in the molten metal, it messes it up. And we had some problems, but we got it done. All 48. Well, 44, actually. Well, it is welded. Jeez Louise, dude, that was a lot of welding. Man, I knew what I was signing myself up for, but dang, that was it was a lot. I dipped quite a few tungstens on that one. That's it. You'll have that on these big jobs, I guess. Oh no, it's just one of those things where you're welding and then you go to reposition slightly and you just slip a little bit, and it is a struggle, but we did it. It's all welded up, with the exception of these front four, which I didn't weld because it just starts smoking so bad. We're gonna have to have the doors open and the fan going, blowing the fumes out, and plus I might as well pull the subframe out and clean underneath here to, just less stuff to burn off. But aside from that, it's all welded. And I got faith in it. It feels stout. I know what, actually, do a little, just a good old strength test. Let's try that. Remember last episode when I said I hate cutting tack? That's why. Alright, good enough. Alright. Doesn't even seem to budge. I mean, maybe it's budging, but it doesn't feel like it's budging. No. Let's say it's strong. Well, let me tell you, that was a journey, but that was a great time. I had a lot of fun coming up with that tunnel design, building it. Oh, I had a rod. Oh man, I don't know if it's just me, but whenever I see a tube structure complete, once it's welded, it just looks entirely different to me. It looks so different. I need you guys to let me know. Let me know if it's just me or does it look different to you. I mean, you can see there are aesthetic differences. Like you can see the heat affected zones everywhere where you welded it. I don't know if it's a mental thing or because I know it's welded down and complete, it feels different. I don't know. I'm just really super happy with how this came out, and to see it wrapped up and welded all the way around on all of them. A lot of joints. But wow. When we set out on this journey, it was a journey. It was a trust the process thing, even for me. I was doing the process, but seeing it complete, I gotta say, I'm super, super happy with it. We've got space where we need it, you know, the shape, the structure, the stiffness, the rigidity. That's the same as stiffness. It's, man, I'm really, really pleased with that. So anyway, I can jibber jabber on and on. Structure-wise, obviously, still got to do those 2 bars at the front, and still got to weld those in, which, definitely dreading that. At least the top 2. The bottom 2, not bad. They weld fine. It's just make smoke. The top ones don't weld fine and make smoke, so that's not going to be fun. But, you know, we got the rest done. So in the meantime, though, we need to start covering it in sheet metal. I'm pretty excited about this part. I'm going to do something a little different than my usual method as far as attaching it to the chromoly. So that's going to be cool. But then also, we get to do the bead roller. I've always seen bead rolled stuff and I always wanted to have a bead roller and make bead rolled tin work, and we got one. It came in, so it's our time to shine. We get to see what this thing's like. I've never actually used one of these, so let's we'll start small. Start with a small piece, template, cut it, try to bead roll it. Well, first things first. We gotta put this together. So well, let's get to it. Hopefully, it's a quick process because I was just kind of banking on it being an easy thing to put together. Let's put some knives in it. Alright, now we can try it. I don't know if you do this like you do with a tubing bead roller, where you do it in stages. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Our first attempt. Let's try some diagonal lines here. Phew, look at that. I mean, it did warp the piece a little bit, but that's kind of expected. It does the same thing with dimple dies. Nice. But it does make it a lot more rigid. I wonder what it would look like if we went diagonally back across. That's kind of ugly. I don't plan on doing that. But yeah, I mean, that's with the wider dies. Yeah. Obviously, that's a gross looking pattern. I just did some lines, but some of the spots are gonna have small pieces, so we'll need to be able to just do, like, you know, a quick line or two. So yeah, sweet. All right. Well, that works. We are in business. Satisfying. All right, cool. We got a bead roller finally. So now we can do some nice snazzy looking sheet metal work, you know. That's what's kind of what I've held off on doing big sheet metal pieces for, because if you don't do anything to them, especially if you know, like the floors, for example, when we do those, I mean, it's like Rattle City unless you have supports just everywhere for it. So being able to do that will tighten them up, and it'll look way cooler, especially the tunnel. This is going to be so fun to do, the multiple pieces, because my plan, you know, I was going to initially make the whole front side removable, but I think I'm going to do it in patches and maybe do like the front sides removable, and then this top part removable, those welded, and then back here, that removable, all that welded. That way we have access where we need it, plenty of it, but also we're not making every panel removable where, you know, it's hard to get the dang thing to seal up, because all those removable panels are gonna have to have some sort of gasket to seal them to prevent, you know, fire ingress. So yeah, whew, man, the welding took me a freaking hot minute. It took me a while to do the welding. I didn't think it was going to take that long. And I know I say that sometimes, a lot of times, but I normally am good about not underestimating how long something's going to take. But when the welding, whew, man, I probably was at it for, I don't know, 6 hours total? Like a long time. It took a long time. That sounds crazy. It's hard for me to even say that. How? But it was a long time. So anyway, let me know what you guys think of the tunnel so far. Just like, I want to keep going. I'm stuck in. Maybe I'll change my mind. I really want to keep hammering this thing out, because I think we should be able to fly through these panels. And then we have a tunnel. And then we can go ahead and cut the floors out, cut the frame rails, boom, weld in our new frame rails, start making our new floor structure. We're going to do nice, probably chromoly seat mount structure, tying, you know, tying from like the center transmission tunnel over. Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff to do that I'm very excited about, but we don't have time to do it right now. We got to call it. I got to call it. I'm sorry. I always say when this happens, I just want to keep going. I'm having so much fun. We're getting somewhere. I mean, this is such a big part of the build that takes such a long time, and we've made a lot of forward progress. And it's like, once we get the chassis work done, which don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying the chassis work because it's the biggest challenge so far for me. But once we get that done, then it's like the normal car building stuff. You know, you just build a car, you just put the engine in, the lines, fittings, wiring, put the ECU in, put some, you know, like that stuff's all pretty straightforward, and you make big strides every time you do it. Whereas the chassis fab, it's like tedious and very nuanced, and there's so much stuff. And anyway, side note, if you saw a couple episodes ago, I did these TIG rod holders, which we set up in the beginning of this, but man, been using them today. I had to do a lot of rod. Very satisfying being able to just one hand tighten or loosen. It's super happy with them. Glad I finally took the time to redo that, but I could jibber jabber on and on. I gotta let you guys go. Go do your thing. Eat dinner or go out to the water or something. I don't know. But for now, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys next time. All right? Promise. Maybe we'll be back working on this. Ideally, we'll be doing some property upgrades. Maybe buying a thing that I'm pretty excited about. But goodbye. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye. I had to say it. You know, I have to say it again at the end.